But I'm curious from your guys' perspective. We asked the fans on Twitter. We also asked them in the chat their opinion on who they value the most from yesterday's game that could become available for the Chicago Bears. And we've got a few names to throw at you, and we have some numbers we can also throw at you as well. But you had Trey Smith on the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs, playing guard, playing opposite against Jalen Carter. Not an easy task. And I think most people that watched and are, people that I trust that evaluate offensive line play would say Trey Smith, among the offensive linemen that had a rough day for Kansas City, had a pretty good showing last night, with having to go up against the beast that is Jalen Carter. Then you have Josh Sweat and Milton Williams for the Eagles defensive line creating absolute havoc, all night long. And they could be targets for the Chicago Bears at D tackle and on the edge being Josh Sweat. And then you have Mekhi Becton, obviously the offensive lineman, is somebody that has had an interesting career. And you saw him as emotional as anyone last night as he finally gets a Super Bowl ring. Steven pulls up the graphic here per spot track and some market value for potential free agency. Trey Smith at $19.7 million, an estimated value here coming up. Josh Sweat at $18.8 million. I think the Arizona Cardinals with, Gannon, coming from Philadelphia will be certainly interested in a couple D linemen. That's, once he coached under Milton Williams at $12 million projected, and then Mekhi Becton at $10.2 million. Carm, I'll start with you. When you look at that list, obviously we talked to Trey Smith. Who for you is the top dog that the Bears need to go after here?
So, it's just tricky, right? Look, I'm not going to fault the Bears if they go out and sign Trey Smith, because literally everybody we talked to all week, down in New Orleans and anywhere really for that matter, when you bring up Trey Smith, they talk about how beloved he is, how much of a hard worker he is, all the things. But let's just be real about where we're at here. Paying $25 million, that 19 is going to be light. 21, 22 million for a guard is going to impact how you have to create the rest of your roster. You don't want to have to do that. So, do you take do you go and pay half for Mekhi Becton, former first-round pick? Sorry, my voice is going out a little bit here, guys, but former first-round pick who was a bust with the Jets, and then finally, gets to Philly and has a great coach in Jeff Stoutland, who's like, yeah, forget about left tackle for you. Let's put you at right guard, and then he takes off, which is why. I've just been so focused on, you need good coaches to figure out how to put this offensive line together, because you're not going to be able to spend through this, especially if you go the Trey Smith route on it. So, look, they're going to have to hit in the draft as well. But it's a tricky one, because you got to get help up front. You have to protect Caleb. Are you going to spend the huge money, or are you going to take a risk, or are you going to go in the draft? Honestly, I don't have a great answer. All of them are fraught with some risk.
Well, you've got people in chat saying they need to overpay, and then you got other fans saying don't overpay.
Right.
So it's kind of this split thing here. But beggars can't be choosers, right, Patrick? When you look at the state of the Bears' offensive line, especially on that interior, and you saw how much it affected Caleb Williams and his development this year, the Bears are kind of in no position to try to play money ball here. They need to go out and get some killers on that offensive line.
Yeah. They also need to build killers. I think we can kind of all agree on that, is that Trey Smith has been a mauler for the Chiefs, and he's a guy who the Chiefs built.
6th round pick.
Yeah. And Mekhi Becton is a guy who, while he was unsuccessful with the Jets, was built in Philadelphia. So there are risks that you can take. There are ways to build this line without breaking the bank because you can't at every position. I think with one player like Trey Smith might be worth it. Here's the deal. Yesterday's game, if Kansas City has an offensive line built of 5 Trey Smiths, they probably win that game, because Trey Smith he didn't take Jalen Carter out of the equation, but he stonewalled him enough. Just with the other part of it is he couldn't block all 4 guys coming after Mahomes. And we've talked about Carter as a disruptor, but Trey Smith really did hold his own for the most part in yesterday's game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to play the clip because we talked to him a week ago at this time at the Super Bowl. We're not going to play the entire interview, but just Trey Smith talking about the type of offensive lineman that he is, for the teams that he plays for.
How do you describe your game? Like if I asked you to scout yourself, how would you describe it?
Physical and violent. I try to be one of the most physical players on the field. To me, football is a violent-ass game, and I want to be violent when I play the game. And I've been playing so long, that's all I really know how to play it. And as an offensive lineman, you want to set and dictate terms, and you want to set the tone, man. You want to be that physical presence that your team can rely on. And, I just try to play the game the right way, passionate, have a lot of respect for this game, have a lot of respect and love for being an offensive lineman, and just try to do it the right way, but just being the most physical guy, that's all I want to be known as.
What do you enjoy more, run blocking or pass blocking?
Run blocking.
Run blocking.
Yeah, you can get after somebody pretty easy and wear them down. Steve Hutchinson had a great quote about making pass rushers earn the right to rush the passer, and you do that by running that run game down and wearing them down, and then, you're not going to get the best rusher a little tired. But
And that's the thing, Carm, is this guy – Trey Smith, we talk about pass blocking because that's all anybody ever thinks about. How you going to pass block for Caleb Williams and throw touchdowns or Patrick Mahomes. But it's also about the run game. And when you look at, how that could be a fit here, Ben Johnson is going to run the football. Everybody talks about how he's going to help Caleb Williams, but he predicates his offense as a foundation to run the football. They bring in David Montgomery. They draft Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. And now you've got a road grader potentially at Trey Smith. And talking to some people, including your guy, Matt Verderam, Mark Carman, where we were hanging out with him, he's like, hey, the Chiefs certainly would love to bring him back. They tried to pay him last offseason. And you talk about that $20 million being a projection total, which you said it feels light. And I agree. If it's $20 million, the Chiefs are probably going to pay it. Trey Smith returns to the Chiefs. They need to keep that offensive line intact. But if it starts to get to $24, $25 million, the Chiefs have shown that they can draft and replace. They did it with Tyreek Hill. They've done it with different guys that took away from Patrick Mahomes. But they have the engine and the machine of having the confidence like, hey, we can let a talented guy go and be able to build like you're saying, Mark. So I think if it gets to a number that the Chiefs are like, they're just going to let him walk.
Well, look, the thing is, you're on the clock right now, too. You're going into year 2 of Caleb. Are you going to trust the fact that you can draft somebody and put him in there? That seems way too risky. Also, we listened to Trey, greatest interview in the history of Super Bowl Monday night. Let's all have a great time. You realize, it's pretty clear that guy would look amazing in the Bears locker room. They need a guy just like that with that clear mindset of playing violent and winning football games with a track record of being in a locker room that's done it. There's a lot of things that are appealing about Trey.
We all silly like the mayor.